So why would anybody put together a bolt gun in 6 arc? So I was on some internet forums the other day, and that was kind of the question being floated around was why would anybody do that? You know, it was designed for the AR-15. It works great in it. It's accurate. It does everything that you would want it to do. So why would you put in a bolt gun? This is their sentiment. This isn't really my sentiment. So of course they were talking about purely factory ammo, running factory ammo through guns, and they weren't taking into account that you could reload 6 arc to a much higher pressure if you reload. And of course, I kind of just catch myself and just kind of saw some of the arguments out there. And, I can get behind, if you don't reload, that would be great. It's kind of pointless to have it in a bolt gun like this because you're not getting anything out of it. Well, long story short, the AR-15 was designed for 223. And with 223, which is a great round, by the way, the bolt head for an AR-15 is much beefier because 223 has a much smaller diameter than a 6 arc. So in order to make a 223 or a gun that was designed for 223 shoot 6 arc, they have to increase the size of the recess that the rim of the cartridge fits into. So that bolt recess that facilitates the larger cartridge, that material that they have to remove in order to make that work doesn't mean nothing. So, and there were issues back when the parent cartridge to the 6 arc, the 6.5 Grendel, there were issues where people were, reloading or shooting even factory ammo, and their bolts and bolt lugs were shearing as they were shooting, and it would damage their gun. And I'm sure there's some horror stories of some catastrophic issues. Well, simple solution: you just download the cartridge. You don't load it quite as hot. You load it, you know, on the lower side, and you're fine, and it works, and it's great, and it's not the best thing in the world because the slower velocity. Well, the same thing happens with the 6 arc, of course, because it has the same issue of that larger cartridge diameter. The head stamp diameter is larger, the rim diameter is larger, all that is larger with it, so it has the same issues. Solution: you download it. You load it to the lower pressures, and that's fine. It works, but you can put in a bolt gun and run much higher velocities. I, like many other people who run this cartridge in a bolt gun or 6.5 Grendel in a bolt gun, can run some pretty awesome velocities and get some much better trajectories than you will out of your AR-15. So I'm pushing this Berger VLD Hunter 105 grain bullet. I'm pushing it about 2,700 feet per second. That's pretty hot. I think the maximum load that I saw for an AR-15 with this cartridge for an AR-15, I think it was like 2,500. So I'm getting an extra 200 feet per second out of it, and that just flattens out my trajectory, makes it much nicer. It's supersonic out to 1,000 yards, which, by the way, I hate to break it to you, but 6 arc in an AR-15 running 2,500 feet per second is not supersonic at 1,000 yards. It goes subsonic about 8. I don't know who needs to hear that. Also, elevation can mess with that. So if you're at some stupid high elevation, say you're out in, I don't know, Wyoming somewhere, you're going to stay supersonic for longer just because you don't have as much pressure as people who are closer to sea level. So that being said, it's dependent upon where you are and your altitude. The other reason that it's awesome to run this is the fact that it doesn't recoil at all. It's just kind of an awesome cartridge. I just sit there. I've got usually a sandbag to the rear of this rifle. I pull the trigger. It recoils a little bit back into my shoulder. It's a bump. It's not a push. My eye stays in the scope. I can watch my bullet go down range and hit. So say if I was a few inches off the target, say I was shooting steel, I can see a little bit of a splash of dirt downrange, and I can correct myself accordingly and hit the target the next time around. So it's kind of awesome to have in a bolt gun. And it's just not this bolt gun, it's other cartridges in different guns. So say you have a 223 bolt gun. Those are awesome too because, again, no recoil. It will recoil less than the 6 arc. So that being said, if you don't have one and you just want a fun gun that's cheaper to shoot, consider getting one of those smaller caliber rifles. Of course, you're not going to be able to put as much energy downrange, but it's awesome, it's fun, and they tend to be cheaper to shoot. Now, of course, 6 arc is not super cheap to shoot. 223 would be way cheaper to shoot, but it's still fun, it's still awesome, it's still enjoyable. So if you don't have a bolt gun in it, I would recommend that you get a bolt gun with a lighter recoiling cartridge, just because they're so much fun.